All right, so when we're ready to do the dodge and burn, you guys are going to be using whatever picture you want to use. So you can choose whatever picture you want. I would try to find a picture that when you convert it into black and white is going to have a nice variety of kind of tones that you can work with. So I have a picture. All right, so I have a picture of the Colosseum that I took a couple years ago in Rome. Now I just need to rotate my image so it's going the right way here. And the first step is we're going to actually desaturate the image. So we're going to take a color image and convert it into black and white. So to do that, it's really easy. It's one of those adjustments or settings that are in that adjustments menu. I'm just going to go down and hit desaturate. When you get to this point, you're going to want to save your work because this is going to be the before picture. So on your Google Sites, you're going to be putting a before and an after picture. And I want to see the before of what it looks like black and white. So you don't need to include the color image, just the black and white image. Okay, so you'll take a minute and save your work. And then you can open up the same image and just kind of keep going. Just like what we've been doing when we go to edit our pictures, we're going to make a duplicate of that background layer. All right, so you're going to drag that background layer into the new layer icon. So now we have two copies of that layer. All right, that will allow us to kind of see like a quick before and after, just to make sure we're not kind of going too extreme with our transformations. So the dodge and burn tool, just like we saw in that video, she was using a little piece of cardboard on a piece of wire. That's exactly what that dodge tool looks like. So if you look in your little tool palette, that's the dodge tool. And then the burn tool is right next to it. And that looks like a hand with a hole. Because remember, the dodge tool is kind of blocking the light from certain parts. So it will look lighter. The burn tool, think like if you are sitting outside on a sunny day, you're going to get a sunburn if you're exposed to too much light. The burn tool is making things darker. And like she showed in that little video, you can use your hands to kind of block most of the picture and just kind of focus light in certain areas. So the icons for these tools actually really connect with the experience of how it would work in a dark room. So you're going to want to kind of switch between these two tools regularly. You're not going to want to like dodge everything and then burn everything and then be done. It's best when you can kind of flip back and forth a couple times and kind of work both on the light end and the dark end at once. So the dodge tool and the burn tool, whenever you click on them, you'll see that you have different options in your tool options bar. So you're going to want to stop here first and kind of make sure the settings are appropriate to the picture that you're using. So you definitely still want to be using those fuzzy edged brushes so the transformations that you're doing kind of blend in a bit easier. And this at 50 is way too small, so I want to use kind of a larger brush. I might even want to bring this up a little bit more, just so we don't see really sharp lines. The bigger brush will allow kind of what you're doing to blend in a bit better. But it certainly depends on the size and shape of the areas that you're working on. You can focus on just midtones, just shadows, or just highlights. So I really want to focus my energy just on that middle gray first, and then I can go in and kind of retarget certain areas if I want to brighten up shadows or really brighten up the areas that are already light. But midtones is a good place to start. And then exposure, 50% is probably good. You can bump this down if you want it to be more subtle. You can bump it up if you want it to be more like aggressive. And then I'm going to kind of focus. This is dodging, so I'm going to lighten up areas. So I'm kind of paying attention to what the sunlight naturally would have hit if it had been kind of a sunnier day when I was taking this picture instead of kind of an overcast, cloudy day. So I want to think about maybe these columns that are on the facade. They stick out more, they'd probably catch more of the light. So I'm just kind of clicking and holding my mouse button as I drag my mouse around just to kind of highlight some of these architectural features that I might want to make a little bit more prominent. okay? And I can kind of click and drag and kind of, you can see how those areas are kind of lightening up and becoming a bit more prominent, and just give a little bit of separation between all those kind of medium grays that are in the picture to start with, okay? So again, I'm thinking about where the light would normally hit, where I want to brighten it, make it a little bit more kind of eye-catching, okay? And again, I can always turn the visibility off to kind of see before and after. So you can see there's definitely some improvement there. Now I want to switch to my burn tool. Same thing, I can adjust the size and shape and kind of hardness of my brush. So I'm going to go something around 200-300. I can also highlight just the midtones, just darkening up the middle gray areas, or I can really darken the highlights, which I probably wouldn't want to do because I just spent the time putting them in, or I can darken up the shadows. But again, midtones is probably a good starting point. And then you can also adjust the exposure here like you can with the other tool. So now I want to focus on maybe darkening up maybe some of those areas that are going to be a bit more shaded and shadowy. Okay, so you can kind of add some definition, add some darkness to kind of some of those areas that maybe would be in more extreme shadow if the sunlight had been a bit brighter that day. All right, so again, I'm only going to show you this much, but I would kind of go back and forth a few more times between the dodge and the burn tool. But even just with a few quick clicks, you can see how much more improved the picture is. It's a little bit more dynamic. There's more contrast between the bright and the dark values. On the sample that I have on the site that I showed you guys, like I worked on the sky a little bit too because it is kind of flat. So whatever parts of the picture you want to choose to do, you're going to do this twice with 2 pictures that you choose. Okay? Great. I stop my recording.